horizon, splitting the clouds like shattered glass. Smoke rose in thick columns from the ruined city below, carrying the bitter scent of melted metal and ash. The once bustling human settlement was now silent, emptied, conquered, forgotten. At the center of it all stood the arena, a colossal structure of black stone and alien alloy, carved into a perfect circle miles wide. Its surface shimmered faintly, etched with symbols no human had ever been meant to understand. And in the very center of that arena knelt a girl. Ilara Vale's wrists were bound in cold restraints that pulsed with faint blue light. Every movement she made sent a sharp sting through her arms, as if the chains themselves were alive, reacting to her fear. She tried not to cry. She had promised herself that. But the silence pressing down on her made it hard to breathe. Thousands of alien spectators filled the towering stands that circled the arena. Their forms were massive, varied, and utterly inhuman, some armored in living metal, others cloaked in shifting energy. Their glowing eyes locked on her like she was nothing more than a spectacle, a show, a sacrifice. Ilara swallowed hard. I shouldn't be here. Just hours ago, she had been hiding in the lower tunnels of the colony with her father. He had told her to stay quiet, to stay hidden, no matter what happened. But the invaders had found them. She could still hear his voice. Run, Ilara. She hadn't made it far. Now she was here, alone. A low, distorted voice echoed across the arena, amplified by unseen technology. Human subject confirmed. The words vibrated through the ground beneath her knees. Commencing final trial. A murmur rippled through the alien crowd. Anticipation, excitement. Ilara squeezed her eyes shut. What trial? She whispered to no one. The answer came in the form of a distant rumble. At first, it was faint, like thunder far beyond the horizon. Then it grew louder, closer. The ground beneath her trembled. Dust lifted into the air as cracks spread across the arena floor, glowing faintly with molten light. And then, a roar. It wasn't just sound. It was force. It slammed into her like a physical wave, stealing the air from her lungs, rattling her bones, filling her mind with something ancient and terrible. Ilara gasped, her eyes snapping open. Above her, the sky tore apart. A massive shadow descended through the violet clouds, wings stretching wider than the arena itself. Its scales glowed like burning iron, each movement radiating heat that warped the air around it. A dragon, but not like the ones from stories. This was something else, something older, something far more dangerous. It landed with a deafening crash, its claws sinking deep into the obsidian floor. Cracks spidered outward from the impact, glowing with energy. Its eyes locked onto her, bright, golden, unblinking. Ilara's heart pounded so hard it hurt. Please, she whispered. But the dragon said nothing. It only stared. Another roar split the sky. Then another, and another. Ilara turned slowly as more shadows descended, each one just as massive, just as terrifying as the first. One landed behind her, another to her left, another to her right, until there was no escape. 7 dragons, 7 apex predators from the darkest corners of the galaxy. They formed a perfect circle around her, their massive bodies towering like living mountains, their wings folding as they settled into place. The air grew unbearably hot. Every breath burned her throat. Above, the alien announcer's voice rang out again. The deadliest dragons of the Orion graveyard. A pause. Begin the feast. The crowd erupted. Some roared. Some chanted. Some simply watched in silent, cold anticipation. Ilara trembled violently now, her body refusing to stay still. This is it. Tears blurred her vision as she stared at the ground. I don't want to die, she whispered. A massive shadow loomed over her. She looked up. The first dragon had moved. It lowered its enormous head toward her, its jaws slowly opening. Rows of jagged teeth glinted in the burning light, each one capable of tearing through steel like paper. Its breath washed over her, hot, suffocating, carrying the scent of ash and something far worse. Ilara shut her eyes tightly. Please. Silence. No bite came. No pain. Just silence. The cheering above faltered. Confusion rippled through the crowd. Ilara hesitated, then slowly opened her eyes. The dragon's jaws were still open, but frozen. Its eyes, those blazing golden eyes, were no longer filled with hunger. They flickered, uncertain, confused. The dragon tilted its head slightly, as if studying her, as if trying to understand something. A low sound rumbled in its throat. Not a roar, not a growl. Something softer, something questioning. Behind her, another dragon shifted. Then another. Ilara turned her head just enough to see. All of them had stopped. Every single one. The arena, once filled with noise, fell into an eerie, suffocating silence. What is happening? One of the alien spectators hissed. This is not part of the trial.
Nothing
The
is
first
impossible
dragon slowly
here!
closed its jaws. Then, it lowered its head, not to strike, but to bow. Ilara stared, her breath catching. What a... One by one, the others followed. 7 dragons, lowering themselves before her. The ground trembled, not from destruction, but from something far more impossible. Recognition. And in that moment, everything changed. Silence gripped the arena like a living thing. Moments ago, it had been filled with roaring, chanting, the thrill of a public execution. Now nothing. Not a whisper. Not a breath dared to break the stillness. 7 dragons knelt before her. Ilara's mind struggled to understand what her eyes were seeing. Her heart still pounded with fear, but something else had begun to creep in. Confusion, and something deeper she couldn't name. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. The dragon closest to her remained perfectly still, its massive head lowered, its glowing eyes no longer filled with hunger, but something almost reverent. Around the arena, the alien spectators began to stir. This is a malfunction. Override the beasts. Activate control protocols. High above, glowing panels lit up as alien operators scrambled. Streams of energy surged through the arena floor, traveling up toward the dragons in pulses of command signals. The metal implants embedded along the dragons' necks and wings flickered. For a moment, the first dragon twitched. A ripple of tension passed through its massive frame. Ilara flinched, fear returning in an instant. But then, the implant sparked, crackled, and exploded into harmless fragments. One by one, the control devices on all 7 dragons failed, shattering like glass under invisible pressure. A collective gasp spread across the arena. That's impossible. They've broken the neural chains. No creature resists that level of control. Ilara stared wide-eyed. "You broke them," she whispered. The first dragon slowly lifted its head, and for the first time, it looked directly into her eyes. Not as prey, not as food, but as something else entirely. Something equal. A strange warmth spread through Ilara's chest. At first, she thought it was just the heat of the arena, but it grew stronger, sharper. A pulse. A rhythm that didn't belong to her heartbeat. She gasped, clutching her wrist. Beneath the restraint, something burned. The metal around her wrists began to glow faintly as the heat intensified. What's happening to me?" The dragon's eyes widened slightly. Then, a voice. Deep, ancient, echoing not through the air, but inside her mind. "You carry the mark." Ilara froze. Her breath caught in her throat. Who said that?" she whispered, looking around wildly. But the voice came again, clearer this time. "You carry the first flame." Her gaze snapped back to the dragon. "You." The dragon did not move its mouth, but she felt it, felt its presence inside her thoughts. A vast, ancient consciousness brushing against her own. "I don't understand," Ilara said, her voice trembling. "What mark? I don't have anything." The burning on her wrist flared. She cried out as the restraint around it cracked, unable to contain the heat anymore. With a sharp snap, the metal shattered and fell away, revealing the skin beneath. A symbol glowed there, intricate, ancient, lines of light woven together in a pattern that seemed to shift the longer she looked at it. It pulsed like a heartbeat, alive. Ilara stared at it, her fear momentarily forgotten. "What is this?" The dragon lowered its head slightly again, but not in submission this time. In recognition, the mark of the first flame. As the words echoed in her mind, something broke open inside her. A memory, but not her own, flashed before her eyes. She saw a vast, endless sky filled with stars brighter than any she had ever known. At the center of it stood a figure, a woman. Her body was made of fire, pure, radiant energy that flowed like liquid light. Around her head burned a crown of blazing stars, each one pulsing with unimaginable power. And before her, dragons, thousands of them, kneeling, just as these were now. Elara gasped as the vision surged through her. Worlds formed in fire, galaxies bent to a single will. A voice echoed through the memory, the same voice. The first flame created us. The vision shattered. Elara collapsed forward onto her hands, gasping for air as if she had been drowning. The arena spun around her. I saw, she choked. I saw something. The dragon's presence steadied her mind, like a distant anchor. You remember? No, she whispered weakly. That wasn't me. A pause. Then, not yet. A deep, resonant roar suddenly echoed from one of the other dragons, shaking the arena to its core. It wasn't a sound of anger or hunger. It was a call. The others answered. One by one, all 7 dragons lifted their heads and roared, not at the crowd, not at their captors, but to the sky. The sound was overwhelming, ancient, powerful, and filled with meaning. The arena began to tremble. Above, the alien commanders panicked. Stop this immediately. She's triggering something. Prepare termination protocols now. Weapon systems unfolded from the ceiling, massive cannons, glowing with concentrated energy. They locked onto Elara, humming with deadly intent. But the dragons didn't move away from her. They moved closer, forming a protective circle. Elara looked up at them, her heart racing. Why are you protecting me? The first dragon lowered its head beside her once more. Its voice, when it spoke again, was no longer distant. It was certain, because you are not the sacrifice. A pause. The symbol on her wrist flared brighter. The air itself seemed to bend around her. You are the one we have been waiting for. Above them, the weapons charged to full power. The arena lights dimmed. And for the first time, the galaxy realized it had made a mistake. A terrible one. The first shot never reached her. A beam of concentrated energy, bright as a newborn star, fired from the arena ceiling, aimed directly at Elara's chest. She didn't even have time to flinch. The dragon moved first, faster than anything that large had any right to be. Its massive body shifted, wings snapping open as it placed itself between her and the attack. The beam struck its scales and vanished, not deflected, not blocked, gone, as if the dragon had swallowed the energy itself. A ripple of shock spread through the arena. What just happened? That was a planetary-grade weapon. The dragon exhaled slowly, faint embers drifting from its nostrils as if it had merely tasted the attack and found it insignificant. Elara stared up at it, her fear mixing with something new. You protected me. The dragon didn't respond, not with words, but she felt it, its presence steady, unwavering, like a mountain that could not be moved. Above them, the alien commanders panicked. All units fire. Now, the arena erupted into chaos. Cannons discharged in rapid succession, beams of searing energy raining down from every direction. Explosions tore into the obsidian floor, sending molten fragments flying. But the dragons moved as one. 2 leapt into the air, their colossal wings generating shock waves that scattered incoming fire. Another slammed its tail into the ground, creating a barrier of shattered stone and molten rock. The remaining dragons closed in tighter around Elara, a living fortress. Every attack meant for her was intercepted, absorbed, destroyed. The crowd fled in terror now, no longer spectators, but witnesses to something far beyond their control. This isn't a trial, it's a catastrophe. Evacuate the arena. Seal the structure. But it was too late. The ground beneath Elara cracked. Not from the weapons. From her. She gasped as the symbol on her wrist flared brighter than ever before. Light spilled from it, crawling up her arm like veins of fire. I can't control it, she cried. The energy surged. The broken restraints around her other wrist melted instantly, dripping to the ground like liquid. A pulse exploded outward from her body. The nearest debris lifted into the air, weightless, suspended. Time itself seemed to stutter. The dragons froze mid-motion. The falling ash stopped. Even the distant screams of fleeing aliens cut off abruptly. Ilara stood at the center of it all, her chest rising and falling rapidly. What is happening? The world felt different. Slower, sharper, as if she could see every detail at once. The dragon in front of her turned its head slightly, unaffected by whatever force held everything else still. Its eyes burned brighter now. Understanding. You are awakening. Ilara shook her head, panic rising. I don't want this. I just want to go home. The dragon stepped closer, lowering itself to her level. Home no longer exists. The words hit harder than any weapon. Her breath caught. What? Your world is gone. The stillness around her seemed to deepen. Her mind flashed back. The burning colony. The ships in the sky. Her father's voice. Run, Ilara. Her chest tightened painfully. No, that's not true. But deep down, she knew. Tears welled in her glowing eyes. I didn't do anything. Why is this happening to me? The dragon's voice softened, as much as something so vast could, because you are not what you believe yourself to be. The suspended world began to tremble. Cracks of light spread through the air itself, like reality was struggling to hold together under the pressure of her power. You said, I have a mark, she whispered. The first flame, what does that mean? The dragon was silent for a moment. Then, it means you were never meant to be ordinary. Another pulse surged from her. Stronger. The frozen weapons above began to fracture, their energy fields destabilizing. You were born carrying something ancient, something older than us, older than the stars themselves. Ilara's hands trembled as she looked at them. They were glowing now. Not just her wrist, her entire body. What am I? The dragon's gaze locked onto hers. And this time, there was no hesitation, no uncertainty, only truth. You are the heir of the first flame. The words echoed through her mind, and something inside her broke free. The frozen world shattered. Time resumed all at once. The suspended energy beams collapsed, detonating mid-air in blinding explosions. The arena shook violently as shock waves tore through its structure. Ilara screamed, not in fear, but in raw, uncontrollable power. A wave of energy burst from her, sweeping across the arena like a storm. Walls cracked, weapons disintegrated, ships hovering above lost control, spiraling out of the sky. The dragons roared, this time not in recognition, but in triumph. The sky above split open as one of them launched upward, tearing through a descending warship with claws.
I will not
Burned
surrender!
like suns.
Your ram's hands
Fire rained
now!
down. The alien forces broke. This is no human. Retreat, retreat. Ilara fell to her knees, the glow around her flickering as the surge subsided. Her breathing was ragged. Her body felt like it was on fire. I didn't mean to, she whispered weakly. The first dragon landed beside her once more, its massive presence shielding her from the chaos. Smoke and flame surrounded them. The arena was collapsing. And yet, nothing touched her. The dragon lowered its head, its voice steady and undeniable. You are not prey. Ilara looked up at it, tears still streaming down her face. The symbol on her wrist burned softly now. Alive. Awake. The dragon's eyes gleamed. You are our queen. Ilara shook her head weakly. I'm not a queen. I'm just me. The dragon leaned closer, closer than ever before, and spoke one final truth. You were. Above them, the last of the alien fleet began to retreat in panic, because the girl they had brought as a sacrifice had just become something far more dangerous, something the galaxy had not seen in eons, something impossible. The arena was no more. What once stood as a monument to domination and spectacle had been reduced to a shattered crater of molten stone and twisted metal. Fires burned in scattered pockets, sending pillars of smoke spiraling into the torn violet sky. At the center of the destruction, she stood, Ilara Vale, small, fragile, and yet everything around her had changed. The glow beneath her skin had faded to a faint ember, but the mark on her wrist still pulsed softly, alive, waiting. Her breathing was uneven, her body trembling from a surge of power that had ripped through her moments ago. I didn't mean to do that, she whispered. Around her, 7 colossal dragons circled in the air like guardians of a newborn star. Their wings carved the sky into shifting shadows, their roars echoing across the broken world. Not as a warning, but as a declaration. Something had awakened, and the galaxy had felt it. The first dragon landed beside her, its massive form shaking the ground with controlled force. Unlike before, there was no hesitation in its movements now. Only certainty. You have begun. Ilara hugged herself slightly, staring at the destruction. People were there, she said softly. I didn't want to hurt anyone. The dragon's glowing eyes shifted toward the horizon, where distant ships flickered like falling stars, retreating. They chose to hurt you first. Ilara didn't answer, because part of her knew it was true. A deep rumble rolled across the sky. Not thunder. Something far worse. The clouds parted once more, but this time, it wasn't a single ship descending. It was an armada. Hundreds, no thousands, of warships emerged from hyperspace, their hulls blackened with armor, their weapons already charged. They spread across the sky like a living storm, blotting out the fading light. Ilara's breath caught. There's so many. A voice echoed from above, amplified across every frequency, every wavelength. Cold, unforgiving, unidentified entity, designated anomaly. You will surrender immediately. The ships shifted formation, weapons locking onto her position. You are hereby ordered to stand down and submit for containment. Ilara instinctively stepped back. I don't even know what I am, she whispered. The dragon beside her spoke, its voice calm and unwavering. They do not care what you are. A pause. Only what you could become. The armada brightened as thousands of weapons charged simultaneously. The air vibrated with the buildup of unimaginable power. If you do not comply, the voice continued, this planet will be cleansed. Ilara's chest tightened. This planet, she murmured, looking around at the ruined colony. There's nothing left. There is you. The dragon's words grounded her. For a moment, the fear threatened to take over again. The same fear she had felt in the arena. The same helplessness. But then, she remembered. The chains breaking. The dragons bowing. The power that had answered her. Her hand slowly lifted. The mark on her wrist glowed brighter. What do I do? She asked quietly. Above her, the dragons slowed their circling. One by one, they descended, landing around her in a wide formation. Their massive bodies formed a barrier between her and the sky, their eyes fixed on the approaching fleet. Then, all seven spoke, their voices layered together, echoing in her mind like a chorus of thunder. You choose. The words lingered, simple, terrifying, because for the first time, no one was forcing her. No chains, no commands, just choice. Ilara looked up at the armada, thousands of ships, weapons capable of erasing entire worlds, all aimed at her. I don't want to fight, she said softly. The dragon beside her didn't argue, didn't correct her. It only said, then do not fight. A flicker of hope sparked in her chest. Then what? Before the dragon could answer, the sky exploded. The armada fired. A storm of energy poured downward, beams and missiles tearing through the atmosphere in a blinding cascade of destruction. The air screamed as the attack descended, turning the clouds into burning vapor. Ilara froze, her mind blank, her body refusing to move. It was too much, too fast, too overwhelming. I can't, she gasped. The dragons roared, launching upward to intercept, but there was too much fire, too many weapons. Even they couldn't stop it all. The storm was going to reach her. It was going to erase everything. In that instant, time seemed to slow again. Not completely.
The Dragon Queen has risen.
Ilara felt that same presence, that same power, waiting, listening. Her fear didn't vanish, but something else rose beside it. A quiet, steady voice deep within her. You are not powerless. Her trembling hand lifted higher. The mark flared. Stop, she whispered. Nothing happened. The storm continued. Closer, closer. Ilara closed her eyes. Not in surrender, but in focus. No, she said again, louder this time. Her voice carried, not through the air, but through something deeper, through the same force that had answered her before. The symbol on her wrist burned like a star. Stop. The universe obeyed. Every beam, every missile, every fragment of destruction. froze, suspended in midair. Just meters above her, the entire battlefield fell silent. The dragons hovered in place, their wings frozen mid-beat. The armada above went still. Even the wind stopped. Ilara slowly opened her glowing eyes, and for the first time, she understood. Not fully, but enough. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was changing the rules. Her voice was quiet now, but it carried more weight than any weapon ever could. No more. And the war had just begun. The universe held its breath. Frozen. Silent. Every weapon that had been unleashed, thousands of beams, missiles, waves of destruction, hung motionless in the sky above Ilara, suspended like stars caught in glass. Even the dragons had stopped mid-flight, their colossal wings locked in place, as if time itself had forgotten how to move. At the center of it all, she stood, Ilara Vale, small, barefoot on shattered stone, her hands still raised, her eyes glowing with a light that did not belong to any human. No more, she whispered again. This time, it wasn't fear. It was decision. The symbol on her wrist pulsed once, twice, then flared brighter than it ever had before. The frozen weapons trembled, not breaking free, but responding, listening, as if they were no longer tools of war, but extensions of her will. Far above, inside the command vessels, panic spread like wildfire. What's happening? Why aren't the weapons firing? We've lost control systems. She's interfering with reality itself. This isn't possible. The lead commander's voice cut through the chaos. Recalibrate targeting. Fire again. But nothing moved. Because nothing could. Not without her allowing it. Ilara looked up at the sky. At the weapons. At the fleet that had come to erase her existence. Her chest tightened. I didn't want this, she said softly. A tear slipped down her cheek, catching the faint glow of the energy surrounding her. I just wanted to go home. The first dragon's voice reached her, steady and grounding even within the frozen world. Home is not a place. A pause. It is what you protect. Ilara's eyes flickered. Something shifted inside her. She looked down at the broken colony beneath her feet, at the ruins, the ashes, the silence left behind by everything she had lost. Then she looked back up, at the ships, at the ones who had taken it all. Her hand trembled slightly, not with fear, but with choice. Then I'll protect this, she whispered. The symbol burned, and the world listened. The suspended weapons began to turn, slowly at first, then faster. Every beam, every missile, every piece of destruction, rotated, redirected, back toward the fleet. Above, the alien commanders froze in disbelief. No, that's not. Defensive systems now. Retreat, retreat. But it was too late. Ilara lowered her hand, and with that single motion, time resumed. All at once, the sky exploded. The redirected storm surged upward, slamming into the armada with unstoppable force. Ships shattered like glass under a tidal wave of their own power, shields collapsing instantly under the sheer magnitude of the attack. Fire bloomed across the heavens. One ship after another vanished in blinding flashes. The dragons roared, not in rage, but in something deeper. Recognition. Victory. Within seconds, the fleet was gone. Not defeated. Not driven back. Erased. Only a few distant ships escaped the destruction, fleeing into hyperspace with desperate speed, their signals broadcasting one message across the stars. The anomaly is uncontrollable. The dragons have chosen her. The first flame has returned. Silence followed. True silence. The kind that came after something irreversible. The sky slowly cleared, the burning remnants of the fleet fading into drifting embers. Ilara stood still, her body shaking as the glow around her began to dim. The power receded, not gone, but resting, waiting. Her knees gave out, and she fell to the ground, catching herself with trembling hands. I did that, she whispered. There was no triumph in her voice, no pride, only quiet disbelief. The first dragon landed beside her once more, its presence as steady as ever. The others followed, surrounding her, not as guards this time, as something more, something ancient, something loyal. Ilara looked up at them, her eyes still faintly glowing. What happens now? The dragon lowered its head, its massive gaze meeting hers. For the first time since all of this began, there was no urgency in its voice. No warning, only truth. Now the galaxy will come. A pause. Not to test you. The distant stars seemed to shimmer, as if reacting to the words, but to survive you. Ilara swallowed, her heart tightening again. I don't want them to fear me. The dragon's gaze softened, just slightly. Then give them something else to believe in. Ilara slowly pushed herself to her feet. The wind carried the last embers of the destroyed fleet past her, fading into nothing. She looked out at the stars. No longer just distant lights, but places, worlds, lives, and now, responsibilities. The mark on her wrist glowed faintly. Steady, patient. She wasn't the same girl who had been dragged into the arena. That girl had been afraid, helpless, alone. This version of her was none of those things. 7 dragons rose into the sky once more, their massive forms circling above her like guardians of something far greater than themselves. Ilara took a slow breath. Okay, she said quietly. Not in surrender, not in fear, but in acceptance. The dragons roared, and across the galaxy, systems lit up with emergency signals, warnings, and a single, unifying truth. Something impossible had returned. Not a weapon, not a monster, but something far more dangerous. A human girl, who had become a legend. The Dragon Queen. Rocket fire.